A furious Judge Judy Sheindlin stands at her bench, her eyes locked on the trembling defendant. In her hand, she holds irrefutable evidence of a scheme that's rocked the service dog community. Fake certifications sold to hundreds of people claiming disabilities they don't have. This isn't just about fraud. It's about the thousands of Americans with disabilities who depend on their legitimate service animals, now fighting to restore trust in a system shattered by greed. Anya Mitchell had dedicated 15 years of her life to training service dogs for people with disabilities. Her facility, New Hope Service Dogs, stood as a beacon of hope in Portland, Oregon, where she'd helped pair over 300 individuals with highly trained service animals. Her reputation for excellence and unwavering commitment to ethical standards made her one of the most respected trainers on the West Coast. Everything changed on a rainy Tuesday morning when one of her longtime clients, Michael Torres, wheeled into her office clutching a newspaper article. The story covered a local woman, Jessica Warren, who claimed to run a revolutionary service dog training program that could certify dogs in just 2 weeks, a fraction of the year-long training Anya's program required. The article praised Warren's innovative approach and accessibility, complete with glossy photos of smiling clients and their supposedly certified service dogs. Anya knew immediately something wasn't right. Professional service dog training required months of intensive work, specialized techniques, and rigorous testing. A 2-week certification program wasn't just impossible, it was dangerous. She began investigating Warren's operation, Quick Cert Services, and what she uncovered left her horrified. Warren had no formal training in service dog preparation. Her facility, operating out of a converted garage, showed no signs of the specialized equipment needed for proper service animal training. Yet she'd issued over 500 certifications in the past year alone, charging desperate clients thousands of dollars for essentially worthless papers. The scope of the fraud became clear when Anya started receiving calls from local businesses reporting incidents with supposedly certified service dogs. A restaurant owner described a certified dog that had attacked a child's food plate. A hotel manager reported 3 different service dogs that had destroyed room furnishings. Each incident chipped away at the credibility of legitimate service animals and their handlers. Most disturbing were the stories from Warren's clients themselves. Amy, a young mother who'd spent $3,500 on Warren's program, broke down in tears describing how her certified service dog had proved completely untrained for her son's seizure alerts. The dog had missed multiple seizure episodes, putting her child's life at risk. Similar stories emerged from others who trusted Warren's promises of quick certification. Anya documented everything meticulously. Security camera footage from local businesses showing certified dogs misbehaving. Bank records revealing Warren's growing fortune built on false promises. Testimonies from dozens of clients who'd been deceived. Most damning were the certification documents themselves, mass-produced papers with generic training claims that wouldn't stand up to any professional scrutiny. The final straw came when Anya discovered Warren had begun offering disability documentation services, charging additional fees to provide clients with falsified medical paperwork claiming disabilities they didn't have. This wasn't just fraud anymore. It was a direct assault on the Americans with Disabilities Act and everything Anya had fought to protect. With support from the legitimate service dog training community and armed with overwhelming evidence, Anya filed her lawsuit. The case landed in Judge Judy's courtroom, where Anya hoped the famous judge's no-nonsense approach would finally expose Warren's scheme for what it was: a calculated exploitation of both disabled individuals and the laws designed to protect them. As Anya prepared for her day in court, she thought about Michael Torres and Amy's son, about all the legitimate service dog handlers whose lives had been made harder by Warren's fraud. This case wasn't just about money or reputation. It was about protecting a system that thousands of Americans with disabilities relied on every day. The service dog community needed this victory, and Anya was determined to win it. The atmosphere in Judge Judy's courtroom crackled with tension as Jessica Warren sauntered to her position, wearing an expensive suit and a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. Anya Mitchell stood opposite, her shoulders straight, years of dedication to service dog training evident in her professional demeanor. Judge Judy studied both women intently, her reading glasses perched on the bridge of her nose as she reviewed the case file. Warren had arrived with her own service dog, a golden doodle wearing a vest covered in patches and badges. The dog pulled at its leash, sniffing the air and wagging its tail at everyone who passed by. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed at the dog's obvious lack of training. Real service dogs didn't behave like excited puppies at a park. "Ms. Warren," Judge Judy began, her voice sharp as a razor, "you claim to run a legitimate service dog training facility that can certify animals in 2 weeks. That's quite a claim. considering most professional programs take 12 to 18 months. Please explain how you accomplished this miracle. Warren launched into a well-rehearsed speech about modern training techniques and streamlined certification processes. She spoke confidently about her innovative program that made service dogs accessible to everyone. Judge Judy listened, her expression growing sterner with each grandiose claim. And your qualifications for this revolutionary training method? Judge Judy interrupted. Where did you study animal behavior? Which accredited program certified you as a trainer? Warren's smile faltered. She began talking about years of experience with dogs and natural talent, but Judge Judy cut her off. That's not what I asked. Show me your credentials. The courtroom fell silent as Warren shuffled through her papers, producing only a series of online certificates from unaccredited pet training websites. Judge Judy held up one certificate, dated just 3 months before Warren had opened her business. This is what you're using to justify charging desperate people thousands of dollars? Anya Mitchell then presented her evidence methodically. Security footage showed Warren's certified service dogs barking at other animals, jumping on people, and ignoring basic commands. Bank records revealed Warren had collected over $400,000 in fees during the past year alone. Most damning were the certification documents themselves, identical forms with only the dates and names changed, lacking any documentation of specific training protocols or disability accommodation requirements. Amy took the stand next, describing how Warren had promised her son a fully trained seizure alert dog. She guaranteed the dog would warn us before every episode, Amy testified, her voice breaking. The first time my son had a seizure, the dog was asleep in another room. We could have lost him that day. Warren's defense began to unravel as Judge Judy presented more evidence. Emails showed Warren coaching clients on how to falsify disability documentation. Text messages revealed her instructing customers to lie about their dog's training if questioned by businesses. A former employee testified about Warren's certification mill operation, where dogs received generic papers regardless of their behavior or training level. Your Honor, Warren interrupted, her composure cracking, I'm providing a needed service. Not everyone can afford traditional programs or wait months for training. Judge Judy's response was thunderous. A needed service? You're selling false hope to vulnerable people and putting lives at risk. Real service dogs undergo intensive training because they perform vital tasks for people with genuine disabilities. Your 2-week miracle program is nothing but a scam. The golden doodle Warren had brought to court chose that moment to start barking at the bailiff, pulling at its leash and completely ignoring Warren's commands to settle down. Judge Judy gestured at the spectacle. And this is your idea of a trained service animal? This dog that can't even maintain basic courtroom behavior. Anya watched as Warren's carefully constructed facade continued to crack under Judge Judy's relentless questioning. Each piece of evidence revealed another layer of the fraud, another family deceived, another legitimate service dog handler whose life had been made more difficult by Warren's scheme. The truth was finally coming to light, but Anya knew this was just the beginning of their fight to restore integrity to service dog certification. Anya Mitchell's investigation into quick cert services had gone far deeper than Jessica Warren ever suspected. As Judge Judy called for the next piece of evidence, Anya's attorney presented a series of hidden camera recordings that would shatter Warren's remaining credibility. The first video showed Warren conducting a training session at her facility. Instead of the sophisticated training techniques she'd claimed to use, the footage revealed nothing more than basic pet obedience commands. Dogs and their owners stood in a cramped garage space while Warren walked around, handing out treats and generic instructions. Not once did she demonstrate any specialized task training for specific disabilities. Stop the video right there, Judge Judy ordered, pointing to the screen. Ms. Warren, you charged $3,500 for this? Teaching a dog to sit and stay? That's not service dog training. That's a basic puppy class you could get at any pet store for $50. The next revelation came from Warren's computer records, obtained through legal discovery. Spreadsheets detailed her certification pipeline, a systematic fraud that processed dozens of dogs each week. The documents revealed how Warren tracked her deceptions, including notes about which clients needed extra convincing paperwork and which ones were easy marks. Dr. James Peterson, a renowned service dog training expert with 30 years of experience, took the stand to explain the extensive requirements for legitimate service animal training. A real service dog must perform specific tasks reliably in any situation, he testified. They undergo thousands of hours of specialized training, including exposure to various environments, stress testing, and task-specific exercises. What Ms. Warren provided wasn't just inadequate, it was dangerous. Warren shifted uncomfortably as Dr. Peterson detailed the proper protocols she'd ignored. Public access training, task-specific skills, temperament evaluations, health screenings, none of these crucial elements appeared anywhere in her program. Instead, her record showed she'd simply rushed dogs through a cookie-cutter process, certifying them regardless of their capabilities or temperament. The financial investigation proved equally damning. Forensic accountant Maria Rodriguez presented a detailed analysis of Warren's operation. In the past 18 months, Quick Search Services collected $847,000 in fees, Rodriguez explained. This includes $3,500 for each certification package, plus additional charges for rush processing and what she called special documentation services. Those special documentation services turned out to be Warren's most egregious fraud. Email exchanges showed her coaching clients on how to fake disability symptoms, providing templates for fraudulent medical letters, and even offering scripts to use when challenged by businesses about their service animals' legitimacy. A former employee, Tyler Newman, testified about Warren's internal operations. She told us never to turn anyone away, no matter how unsuitable their dog was, he revealed. If a dog was aggressive or completely untrained, she'd just tell us to process them quickly and get them out the door. When I raised concerns about public safety, she said it wasn't our problem once they left. Security footage from local businesses painted a disturbing picture of the consequences. A mall surveillance video showed one of Warren's certified dogs lunging at children. Another clip captured a dog from her program causing chaos in a restaurant, jumping on tables and stealing food while its owner frantically waved a certification card Warren had provided. The most heartbreaking testimony came from Mark Reynolds, a veteran with PTSD who trusted Warren to train his dog as a legitimate service animal. I spent my savings on this program because I needed help, he testified, his voice thick with emotion. The dog wasn't trained for my symptoms at all. During one of my episodes, instead of performing the grounding techniques a real service dog would use, he ran away. I ended up in the hospital. Judge Judy's questioning grew more intense as the evidence mounted. She pressed Warren about specific cases, about the lives she'd endangered, about the legitimate service dog community she'd damaged. Warren's responses became increasingly defensive and contradictory. These people came to me for help, Warren insisted, her polished facade cracking further. Traditional programs have long waiting lists. They're expensive. I was providing an alternative. An alternative to what? To safety. To legitimacy. To actually helping disabled people. Judge Judy's voice filled the courtroom. You provided nothing but false hope and fraudulent papers. You endangered the very people you claimed to help, and you undermined a system that thousands of Americans rely on. The courtroom fell silent as Anya presented her final piece of evidence, a recording of Warren herself, speaking to a potential client. In the audio, Warren brazenly admitted that her certifications weren't technically legal, but assured the client that nobody checks too carefully, and everyone's doing it anyway. Judge Judy removed her glasses, staring directly at Warren. The evidence had painted a clear picture of calculated fraud, endangering public safety and exploiting vulnerable individuals for profit. The only question remaining was the extent of the consequences Warren would face for her actions. Jessica Warren's carefully constructed world started to collapse under the weight of overwhelming evidence. As Judge Judy prepared her final round of questioning, Warren frantically shuffled through her papers, searching for anything that might salvage her credibility. Your Honor, I want to explain, Warren began, her voice trembling. The traditional service dog industry is broken. The waiting lists are years long. The costs are impossible for many people. I saw a need in the market and filled it. Judge Judy's response was swift and cutting. A need in the market? You saw an opportunity to exploit desperate people. Don't try to paint yourself as some kind of humanitarian. The evidence shows you knew exactly what you were doing. Warren attempted a different approach, pulling out testimonials from satisfied customers. I have dozens of happy clients who got the help they needed through my program. These people couldn't access traditional training methods. Oh, really? Judge Judy held up the financial records. Tell me about client number 47, who paid you $3,500 for a service dog certification for her Chihuahua, which you knew had failed basic temperament testing. Or client number 89, who came to you specifically requesting fake papers so she could take her pet to restaurants. Warren's face paled as Judge Judy continued reading from her own business records. Each example revealed another layer of calculated deception. The testimonials she'd brought were from people who'd wanted to game the system, not legitimate disability service dog handlers. Your Honor, I maintain strict training standards, Warren protested weakly. Every dog in my program must pass basic obedience requirements. Anya's attorney immediately presented video evidence showing Warren certifying an aggressive German Shepherd that had bitten a trainer during its evaluation. The timestamp showed Warren had issued the certification papers just hours after the incident. Strict standards. Judge Judy's voice dripped with sarcasm. The only standard you maintained was making sure their checks cleared before you handed over fraudulent paperwork. You certified dogs that posed active threats to public safety. As Warren's defenses crumbled, she made one final desperate attempt to justify her actions. The ADA doesn't require specific certifications. There's no official registry for service dogs. I was just working within the law. Judge Judy leaned forward, her expression thunderous. Don't you dare hide behind the ADA. That law exists to protect people with disabilities, not to give scam artists like you a loophole to exploit. You didn't just break the law. You violated the trust of an entire community that depends on legitimate service animals. The courtroom fell silent as Judge Judy picked up a stack of Warren certification documents. These papers aren't worth the ink you wasted printing them. But the damage you've caused? The legitimate service dog handlers who face increased scrutiny because of frauds like you? The disabled individuals who trusted you with their safety and independence? That damage is very real. Warren's composure finally shattered completely. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. I just saw an opportunity to make money. Everyone else was doing it too. I just made it more efficient. Efficient fraud is still fraud, Judge Judy declared. And you meant exactly what you did. Every fake certification, every falsified document, every time you coached someone to lie about a disability, those were conscious choices you made, knowing the harm you were causing. The evidence had painted an undeniable picture. Warren's business wasn't just a scam. It was a calculated operation designed to exploit both the disabled community and the laws meant to protect them. Her defense had dissolved into a series of increasingly desperate excuses, each one exposing more of her true motivations. Anya Mitchell watched as the last of Warren's justifications crumbled under Judge Judy's relentless pursuit of truth. The woman who had caused so much damage to the service dog community sat defeated, her fraudulent empire exposed for what it truly was. The only question remaining was the extent of the consequences she would face for her actions. Judge Judy Sheindlin straightened her papers, removed her glasses, and fixed Jessica Warren with a penetrating stare that had made fraudsters tremble for decades. The courtroom held its breath, knowing this moment would reshape the landscape of service dog certification. Ms. Warren, Judge Judy began, her voice carrying the weight of justice, this court has seen thousands of scams, but yours stands out for its calculated cruelty. You didn't just steal money. You endangered lives, exploited disabilities, and damaged a system that legitimate service dog handlers depend on. The judge referenced her notes, though it was clear she hardly needed them. The evidence shows you collected $847,000 through your fraudulent certification scheme. You issued over 500 false certifications to untrained dogs. You coached people to lie about disabilities they didn't have. You provided fake documentation that put businesses and the public at risk. Warren stared at the floor as Judge Judy continued. Your actions show a pattern of deliberate fraud that cannot be excused by claims of good intentions or market demand. This court orders you to pay $847,000 in restitution to your victims. Additionally, you will pay $500,000 in punitive damages to the National Service Dog Training Standards Organization to help repair the damage you've caused to their industry. Anya Mitchell's eyes widened at the figure. The punitive damages would help fund programs to strengthen legitimate service dog training and certification processes nationwide. Furthermore, Judge Judy declared, you are permanently prohibited from any involvement in dog training, certification, or disability services. You will personally contact every individual who received fraudulent certifications from your business and inform them that their documents are void. You will provide a complete list of all clients to the relevant authorities for follow-up investigation. The judge turned to address the broader implications of the case. This verdict sends a message to others who might consider similar schemes. Service dog fraud isn't a victimless crime. It hurts legitimate handlers who face increased scrutiny because of fake certification mills. It endangers businesses trying to comply with disability laws. Most importantly, it puts disabled individuals at risk when they're paired with untrained animals. Anya watched as Warren's face crumpled under the weight of the judgment. The woman who had caused so much damage to the service dog community would finally face real consequences for her actions. Judge Judy wasn't finished. Ms. Mitchell, your dedication to exposing this fraud has done a great service to the disability community. This court recognizes your expertise and integrity in maintaining proper training standards. You'll be appointed to the state's newly formed Service Dog Certification Standards Board to help prevent similar frauds in the future. The verdict rippled through the service dog training community nationwide. News outlets picked up the story, highlighting the growing problem of certification fraud and its impact on legitimate service animal handlers. State legislators began drafting bills to create stronger penalties for service dog fraud and clearer standards for training programs. For Anya, the victory meant more than just financial penalties against Warren. It meant validation for the countless hours legitimate trainers spent ensuring their dogs met the highest standards. It meant protection for disabled individuals who relied on properly trained service animals. Most importantly, it meant restoration of trust in a system that thousands of Americans depended on daily. As Judge Judy prepared to close the case, she had one final message for the courtroom. The Americans with Disabilities Act provides crucial protections for individuals with service animals. Those protections depend on trust. Trust that when someone says they have a service dog, that animal is properly trained to perform specific tasks. People who abuse that trust don't just break the law. They undermine the very rights and dignities the ADA was created to protect. The gavel fell with finality, marking not just the end of Warren's fraudulent enterprise, but the beginning of stronger protections for the service dog community. Anya caught Judge Judy's eye as the courtroom began to clear, seeing in the judge's slight nod a shared understanding of what they'd accomplished. This case would serve as a precedent, a warning to others who might try to exploit the system, and a victory for every legitimate service dog handler fighting for recognition and respect. 6 months after Judge Judy's landmark verdict, the impact of the case reverberated through the service dog community nationwide. Anya Mitchell's training facility, New Hope Service Dogs, had become a model for ethical service dog certification, with organizations across the country adopting her rigorous training protocols and documentation standards. The National Service Dog Training Standards Organization used the punitive damages from Warren's case to establish the first comprehensive digital registry for legitimate service dog trainers. This database allowed businesses and public facilities to verify credentials quickly, while protecting the privacy of handlers and their medical information. The system struck a careful balance between accessibility and accountability, ensuring that fraudulent operations couldn't slip through the cracks. Amy's son now worked with a properly trained seizure alert dog from Anya's program. The new dog, a carefully selected and extensively trained German Shepherd, had already prevented several dangerous situations by providing early warning of oncoming seizures. The difference between this legitimate service animal and Warren's untrained dog proved stark. Where the fraudulent certification had endangered a child's life, proper training had helped safeguard it. Mark Reynolds, the veteran who had lost his savings to Warren's scheme, received full restitution and finally got the help he needed. Anya had worked with him personally, matching him with a service dog specifically trained for PTSD support. The proper training made all the difference. His new dog could recognize anxiety triggers, perform grounding techniques, and provide the reliable support he'd been promised but denied by Warren's fraud. State legislators took notice of the case's implications. 3 states passed Service Dog Integrity Acts, establishing criminal penalties for fraudulent certification schemes and creating clear standards for service dog training programs. These laws provided the legal framework needed to prosecute future scammers while protecting legitimate training organizations. The business community embraced the changes. Hotels, restaurants, and retail establishments reported fewer incidents with fake service animals, and their staff received training on the new verification system. The clearer standards helped them balance their obligations under the ADA with their duty to maintain safe environments for all customers. Jessica Warren's client list revealed the widespread nature of service dog fraud. Investigation of her records led to the shutdown of 4 similar operations across the country. The publicity surrounding the case deterred many potential scammers, as businesses and disabled rights organizations became more vigilant in reporting suspicious certification schemes. Anya's appointment to the Service Dog Certification Standards Board proved transformative. She helped develop new guidelines that maintained the highest training standards while making legitimate certification more accessible. Scholarship programs and payment plans helped ensure that people with disabilities could access proper training without falling prey to quick-fix schemes like Warren's. Most importantly, The case restored faith in legitimate service dog handlers. The heightened awareness of proper certification standards meant fewer confrontations about access rights. Businesses gained confidence in recognizing legitimate service animals, while the disabled community felt more supported in their right to be accompanied by their properly trained assistance dogs. For Anya, the most meaningful outcome came in the small moments. Seeing a properly trained service dog guiding its handler through a crowded mall, watching a medical alert dog performing its duties with precision, hearing from grateful families who finally had the support they truly needed. These daily victories proved that standing up against fraud had created lasting positive change for the entire service dog community. Judge Judy's verdict had done more than punish one fraudulent operator. It had helped rebuild a system of trust between service dog handlers, businesses, and the public. The case served as a reminder that protecting the rights of disabled individuals required vigilance, integrity, and a commitment to maintaining the highest standards of service dog training and certification.